down. We the talk around town. Alex threw the ball to Smokey for a touchdown. Ha. It's fourth down and you don't really want no more. We've been winning from the door. You should check the scoreboard. Ha. Check the scoreboard.
Welcome back to the Scoreboard. It is XFL Week 10. If you're here for the USFL, that is going to be a separate show. Also on this channel, you can go check that out if you want. But while you're here, let's talk about the XFL. Final week of the regular season, and there's still some drama. Unexpectedly, but the playoffs are not set in stone, and it's coming down to the final week. Smokey, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. I am better than Orlando Guardians fans because they lost once again. And the season's obviously over. It's been over for a while, but you would like to see them get at least one more win, and the Brahmas should have been the place to do it. I know we both picked the Brahmas to be their win right here, and it didn't quite happen. I don't know. Tyrell Buckley's probably still mad. He wants all new players, and I think the biggest problem was they didn't have Cody Latimer last week. That
might be it.
Yeah.
The best player.
Yeah, exactly. He is. But yeah, Guardians fans, I feel bad for you.
The season's over soon. One more week, and the season is over for the Guardians. We have 2 playoff spots on the line this week. Someone's going to DC, someone's going to Houston, and we're going to find out who those someones are. But let's start with the Guardians. You mentioned them at the St. Louis Battlehawks. Battlehawks win, and you're in for the playoffs.
Yeah. Do you want to hear about our picks though from last week?
Oh yeah. Let's get on those.
Yeah, I made up a point on you. That's why I definitely wanted to point this out. We picked the same teams, all except for the Dragons versus Battlehawks, and I got that one. So that gave me. You
were right on one thing. You were right on one thing when you said they want to encourage people to watch Week 10. So you better make sure the Sea Dragons win.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
Game. I mean, that call like on the touchdown where they challenged it. And they challenged the missed hands to the face. And this, this is what Dean Blandino says during the replay. He says, I'm going to watch it in real time. I'm not going to watch it in slow motion because it'll make it look worse. Are they going to start reviewing catches not in slow motion anymore because they'll get a clearer picture of it? Like you're supposed to slow it down to see it in detail, right? That's what a challenge is all about. It's something that the official missed in full time, in real time. You can slow it down and see if that wasn't right. No one would do that with a catch. Like you gotta start. We're not gonna watch the catch. We're not gonna slow it down, and we're not gonna zoom into it either because that would show that his feet were actually not in bounds, and then we'd have to overturn the call, which we don't want. Like you can't do that. It's your job to review it precisely. So zoom in and slow it down and see if it happened or not. If his hands go to his face, then you'll see that when it's slowed down and zoomed in, and then you call it. And if not, then it doesn't matter. Then he didn't do it. But if you watch the same thing, what's the challenge worth? So this is what I think happens in the NFL all the damn time when the league has an agenda, right? But like, it doesn't work with this process. You're saying this on live TV. Like he's literally saying, hey, listen, we're not going to actually do the challenge procedure because we don't want to change the call to begin with. And he just said it. He said it on live TV.
Yeah, it's almost like he wasn't mic'd up, but he was.
He was.
Listen, Dino Blandino knows the storylines, so he's going to go along with the storylines. It does look bad for the league. It does, because The Rock comes from a scripted sport, so it's really bad. But either way, I think they're going to at least lean as heavily possible as to getting in the right teams into the right positions to make these the last week and the playoffs as exciting as possible. And that was just one step along the way. I'm glad I picked that game because that's how it looked like it was heading in, and it absolutely played out like that.
It did play out like that. Not to say that Seattle didn't play better throughout the whole game. I think they did.
Yeah.
But man, that was unnecessary. But it does make Week 10 very watchable and actually mandatory to watch. Now, the Battlehawks are still in control of their own fate, and it happens to be at home against the worst team in the league. So I am not too upset about this little excursion. I think they would still want St. Louis in the playoffs. So if we're going with the maybe not scripted league, but they have some motivation to lean a certain way, I think they would probably prefer the Battlehawks make it in either way. So that's all right. We'll go with these games. So, if I understood correctly, I'm still 2 points ahead now overall. Is that right?
2 points, yes.
2 points. Okay, so then let's go like let me go first every other game. You go first every other game, so it's fair. I can't just pick what you pick.
Okay.
Okay, but I'll let you go first on this one.
All right, well, this is pretty simple. I don't think we're going to disagree on this one. The Guardians are 1-8 versus the Battlehawks, who really need the win here. It's going to happen. The Battlehawks are going to win for no other reason than that's the storyline. But the Battlehawks have A.J. McCarron back under center, and he actually played decently considering the situation there. Quentin Dormady was not good, and even saw DeAndre Francois coming back in last week. Charleston Rambo was probably the best wide receiver for the Guardians, but there was no passing game. It was non-existent. And the running game is what it is. Devin Darrington had a ton of run in this game. I guess Buckley said, hey, we're going to do it on the ground. No reason to throw the ball. We're not going to win anything here. So we'll probably see more of that. We'll see A.J. McCarron doing his best. And actually the opposite on the Battlehawks. There's not going to be much of a run game. It's going to be all passing because that's what they do. Darius Shepard and Marcel Aitman are going to be the recipients of that. Anthony Betch will get this team into the playoffs. I'm picking the Battlehawks.
I agree. I'm picking the Battlehawks. They better win. They're the better team, and they're supposed to be in these playoffs going back to DC. Mm-hmm. And just to explain why, because it gets tricky here, because with like only having a 10 game season, it is more likely to have these like equal records on the playoff bubble. And I've dug into it a little bit. So here's actually how it goes. First tiebreaker is, of course, the head-to-head of the two teams. If St. Louis and Seattle both win this week, they'll both have beaten each other once, because they all played each other twice, so that's even. And then the next tiebreaker is not immediately points scored or like total points scored. It is the it's a win-loss percentage in the division. So both teams would have lost to DC twice. Both would have won against Vegas twice and then exchanged wins. So both would be 3-3 in the North. That's also even. And the next up, it's not points scored, but it is strength of schedule specifically in all their wins. And with that, it specifically tally up all the teams that they have beaten and their records. And with that, the Battlehawks still hold the tiebreaker over Seattle. So it's a bit complicated. But that's how it goes. So even if both were to win, and if both were to lose, the St. Louis is in by virtue of having beaten Vegas twice, where the Sea Dragons would have lost to Vegas. So both of those work in their favor. But they have to win, control their destiny. I'm taking them. They're gonna win. They're gonna get in. They're gonna go to DC, and they're gonna beat the Defenders in the ultimate showdown of Jordan Ta'amu's destiny game against his former team. It's meant to be. Battlehawks have to be the XFL champions. It will happen, but first beat Orlando at home. Defenders at the Brahmas.
Yeah, this is pretty much the same situation. I mean, the Brahmas did play well last week, getting the win. Jack Cohn was actually decent this past week. Jaquez Patrick was a beast. John Hillman was great. But this is the Defenders. This team is 8-1. This is the most dominant team. I don't know how they lost to the worst team, the Guardians, at one point in time, but they did. Mr. XFL, Jordan Ta'amu, is actually, after A.J. McCarron missing that week, he might actually be the MVP here. We're going to have to see about that. Abram Smith, the best running back in the league. Reggie Barlow has this team running. Yeah, the Defenders on the road. They're going to kill them.
here's what I'm gonna say. Okay, there is no reason for the defenders to play their starters in this game, right? They've clinched the 1 seed. They will be playing at home. If you're DC, isn't it smart to take out your superstars, rest them for next week? Because you'll either have Seattle or St. Louis, two very good offenses coming to town, and you have to be ready for a shootout in the division, the Northern Championship. On the other side of that token, and I was meant to go first in this one, but either way, I'm gonna go the upset route no matter what. I'm taking the Brahmas in this game because the Brahmas have everything to play for. They are not out. The Brahmas can make the playoffs if they win, and the Renegades, who notably play after the Brahmas, so no matter what, the Brahmas will be motivated to win, play at home and host the Houston Roughnecks, who also have the playoffs clinched, but are the leader of the division, and this is very possible. Like, imagine the pressure that you put on Arlington by beating DC and saying, Arlington, you have to go win now to be in, and Houston might want to play spoiler there. So I'll take the Brahmas. I think if the Houston Arlington game was before, I'd maybe sway in favor of the defenders, because there's a good chance that the Brahmas would be eliminated anyway by that point, but they're not eliminated. They're having the playoffs to play for. DC, on the other hand, doesn't have nothing to play for. I'm thinking we're going to see the best of the Brahmas versus probably a whole lot of defenders' backups. And the odds actually kind of reflect this. The defenders are favored by only 3 points, which to me indicates that they're probably not going to come out full strength. So I'm taking this shot at the Brahmas.
I had not even contemplated them actually resting players. It seems, I mean, it happens in the NFL every single year.
Yeah.
And I guess it makes sense here. I just didn't expect with such a short season that would be happening. You may be right. But I'm going to stick with the defenders because their second team may be good enough to beat the Brahmas. Who knows?
It might.
Yeah.
It might. It's a good pick, but I'm going Brahmas here.
All right.
Roughnecks at the Renegades, and I'll go first. I'll go first with this one now.
Okay.
And I'm going upset again. I'm taking the Renegades. If we can even call that an upset, because these teams are probably pretty even. Where the Roughnecks are not as good, the Renegades are, well, not good either, I guess. But like, I'm assuming we're going to see this back to back. We're going to see it in Week 10. We're going to see it next week in the Southern Championship, and if that's what we're seeing, like Arlington wins this week and we have the South Championship next week, who's going to be favored there? I mean, it might be a pick'em. This is basically a pick'em, by the way. Arlington are 1 point favorites at home, so it's close to nothing already. They're saying with Luis Perez being an upgrade over everything the Renegades had before then, and Houston kind of showing their true colors when they were faced with actual competition, having to play in the North. They're not the team that we thought they were. So these teams are by all means basically even, so I'm taking the Renegades because they're still fighting for the playoff spot, and they are going to take momentum into Houston next week, where they might just slip into the XFL Championship while everyone wasn't looking. What do you got?
I'm picking the same thing, and I thought it was going to be an upset pick also. I thought you were going to pick the Roughnecks. I think the Renegades are good enough to beat the Roughnecks twice in a row. Now, they're still going to have, well, if the Brahmas win, so the Renegades absolutely need this win so that the Brahmas don't sneak up and take that spot. So the Renegades do need to beat them. At first I was thinking maybe the Renegades could let the Roughnecks have this one and then beat them in the playoffs, but the Renegades need this. They're going to win 2 games in a row, in my opinion. Brandon Silvers is not good. This is a defensive team, obviously, with Wade Phillips as the coach. It's a defense and run team, which Max Borghi and Bryson Allen are both great. They have no passing game, and it really shows. With Luis Perez over on the Renegades, this team is much better. They are still trying to find their groove with Luis Perez, but he is good enough to get them there. Davion Smith and Tyler Vaughns are excellent. I think the Renegades are good enough. Bob Stoops is going to pull off the win against his old rival Wade Phillips here, and I think he's going to do it 2 weeks in a row, so I'm going to stick with the Renegades at home.
All right, so we both have Arlington. Interesting. Yeah. Lastly, Vipers at Sea Dragons. I will go first on this one as well, just to have it fair, and I want to paint a little picture for this game. So, the following is going to happen, and I'm betting money on this. By the time this game kicks off, the Battlehawks have already clinched the playoffs, so we've beaten the Guardians. So Seattle has nothing to play for. Sea Dragons have nothing to play for, but it is the Vipers, and they're terrible. But of course, in true Seattle football fashion, the entire team, the entire city is incredibly just angry, unsportsmanlike, shows up salty as hell even at kickoff. They're completely going to collapse in on themselves, mistake after mistake. They're going to start fights, like at least 3 ejections on the Sea Dragons bench. Probably one of their assistant coaches gets sent into the locker room like midway through the first half or something. They're just there for a brawl because they're out of the season. They've lost, right? The Battlehawks are already in, and because they play football in the city of Seattle, they have to act like thugs for 60 minutes. So all the ejections, all the fights, and whatnot. But the Vipers are probably going to fumble a kickoff or something and get in their own way just enough to allow DiNucci to have 1 or 2 good plays. And the Seattle Sea Dragons win the game 10-9. Exactly 10-9. That is going to be the final score. It's going to be the worst game of the season by far. It's going to have the least viewers by far because nothing's on the line. And anyone who happened to accidentally flip to this channel is going to switch off promptly by the first quarter because it is so bad. 10-9 Sea Dragons in front of exactly 0 viewers, and the team gets fined like at least $500,000, and then because of that, next year they get like a draft pick take and everything, and then next year they suck and they go 0-10. That's what's happening. They win this game. They move. Yeah, they move to, I don't know,
Hoboken.
somewhere closer to the east where all the other teams are.
Yeah.
Atlanta. There you go.
Maybe it'll be
you got another Atlanta team.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe it'll be the Atlanta Dragons next year. We can't really call them Sea Dragons if that's the case, but we'll take the Atlanta Dragons, I suppose. Ben DiNucci, come on down. So you're picking the Dragons?
I'm picking them. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Me
Scrappy
too.
win.
I can't. Like you said, you lay out a good point that by this point the Battlehawks could have already won, and then they know there's no way to get in. But there's still a chance that the Guardians pull an upset over what some would say the second best team in the league after they've already pulled the upset over the best team in the league. Right here, I think Jalen McClendon has played decent. He's not great. He's absolutely average, which gets them close to winning, but rarely ever winning. Geronimo Allison has quickly become the star wide receiver of this team over Jeff Okudah, who was the star early in the season, and anyone else they want to throw out there. Ben DiNucci is the heaviest passing quarterback in all of the spring leagues that we've seen since 2019 or whenever the AAF kicked out. This guy loves to throw the ball, but he throws a lot of interceptions also, which is an unfortunate byproduct there. Philip Lindsay is still trying to find a groove. I think he's going to get better and better each week, which this may be your last week, and you may have came in a little too late. Ja'Cour Pearson's still the number 1 wide receiver in the league. Yeah, I'm going to stick with the Sea Dragons. I think they pull this off, and there is still a chance they are in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree that they win, but there's not a chance because the Battlehawks beat the Guardians before this game even kicks off. So the playoffs are settled. A lot of fights, suspensions, take their draft picks away, but they win the game. Exactly 10-9, by the way, and nothing else.
Okay.
The over-under of this game is 47.5, and I'm going to take the under. I will bet money on this under. I think the under is generally underrated. A lot of people don't consider the under. 47.5, I will take it. So we both agree on the playoff picture then. Battlehawks at the Defenders, Renegades at the Roughnecks.
Absolutely. And I'm taking the Renegades.
The Renegades next week? You're locking it in?
Well, I kind of want to see how they play this week, but as of right now, I want to say yes, the Renegades win both weeks, this week and next week.
Can the Renegades win the league? Just one lucky break?
It's possible. I mean, Luis Perez almost did it in the USFL last season, if it wasn't for the Stars. So, I think it's possible. Bob Stoops is a qualified coach to pull off such a feat. I know they've had a turbulent season so far, but now they are kind of settling down, and it's at the right time. I know their record doesn't really show how good they are. They are much better than that record. And the Roughnecks are much worse than that record. So I think they can absolutely at least make it to the championship. I don't know if they're going to end up beating the Battlehawks or the Defenders, whoever makes it there. But they can at least make it there, in my opinion.
Honestly, to me, they're pretty close. Like, they're pretty even. I think this is pretty much a coin flip.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll see how it goes. I'm just looking at stats, and I have okay, interesting quiz question. How many players have thrown a pass for the San Antonio Brahmas this season?
Oh, for the Brahmas. I would say 8.
8? Wow, no, it's 5.
Oh,
five,
okay.
5 different quarterbacks, which is still
I
a lot.
thought it was going to be something really high since you
over
said
10 over 10 weeks. 5
Because...
quarterbacks in 10 weeks is not a sign of success.
Oh no, not at all. But that's the reason. Well, Jack Cohn has been in and out pretty much the whole season. Who did they start off the season with? It wasn't Jack Cohn that started the season.
It was Jack
right?
Cohn. Yeah, Jack Cohn started. Yeah, he was the first guy. Yeah, he was the first guy. Yep. But that went all sorts of sideways. We'll see who it's going to be this week. But no matter who it is, they're going to win at DC. Or at home, rather, against DC. But that's our picks. Next week we have the playoffs. So should be good. Then there's a week break, like with the Super Bowl as well. I don't know if they're going to have a Pro Bowl or something similar for the XFL. But 1 week's break. And then Renegades and Battlehawks for the championship. We agree on that, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. Do you have anything to add for the XFL for this week?
No, I think that's it for this week.
Okay, perfect. Leave us your predictions, and if you want, you can go into as much detail as I did for Seattle, but that's only because I know exactly what's going to happen there. But for these picks, playoff bracket, and once again, I'll mention it, the USFL picks, separate show, but you can find it as well on the same channel for week 2. We'll have those up as well, so go ahead and watch that. Leave us your ideas on that. But for the XFL, final week of the regular season, playoff time next week. So it's clutch time. Let us know what you think, and we'll see you in the next one.
Doses.
Check the scoreboard.